Senator Mike Lee, there's about 3 in the Senate now that I trust and I think are fighting the good fight for the Constitution and not for politics. Mike Lee is the chief among them. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Doing great. Good to be with you, Glenn.
Good. So tell me about the Endless Frontier Act, because it sure sounds great, Mike.
To me, it sounds dreadful and horrific in every single respect. Look, first of all, consider the name, Endless Frontier. The two are sort of oxymoronic. They don't go together at all. They've also rebranded this thing recently as the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act. If you got to brand it as that, it's not going to do what it says. It creates a new directorate, a new technology directorate within the National Science Foundation, ends up throwing around about $200 billion, much of this going directly to the National Science Foundation. The people who have been known over time to spend millions of dollars studying such cutting-edge questions like how long does it take a panda bear to go to the bathroom? And in this, they try to basically outcompete China at China's own game. We're going to beat China by developing much more of a command and control authoritarian approach toward technology development and entrepreneurial spirit. This is the China way of doing things. This is how we lose. We cannot and will not ever beat China at China's own game. We have to beat China by playing our game better. And our game involves free markets. It involves civil society. And it involves recognizing the proper role of government and leaving government outside of everything else.
So this is, you remember the if you will, the State of the Union speech that Joe Biden gave? Beforehand, he talked to reporters and he said, you know, there's a great debate, and I know which side I'm on, but there's a great debate right now on whether a democracy, something as great as ours, can actually compete against Russia and China because they can move so much faster. Basically, he was arguing for fascism or communism, and this is the fruition of that. This is the fruit of that question. He didn't believe in the United States system. He does believe in command and control, and this is to what? We all get together. When I say we, the government minds get together and say, hey, we should develop, this technology, and then suddenly we do it?
Yeah. No, look, if this were happening in another country, this sort of approach to developing technology and economics and their ability to compete, if it were occurring in another country, we'd have words for those. And I think you used a form of the word fascism a minute ago. It's sort of the word we use when we see industry and government combining and saying we're going to make everything more efficient by developing a command and control economy. And this, keep in mind, Glenn, is a country with the worst human rights record imaginable. And yet we're going to try to be like them. Look, my view is that we ought to decrease regulation and not invest in regulatory bodies. Instead of chilling innovation and competition, we ought to decentralize power and champion trust in the private sector. And we ought to simplify and cut taxes, not offshore our jobs. We ought to use our critical minerals and not let them languish. We need to partner with our allies and not restrict fair trade. We need to harvest timber and not organs. We need to value families and not diminish them. And we ought to be encouraging entrepreneurship and not crony capitalism. We ought to strengthen our markets, not government. This does the opposite of all those things, and we've got to defeat this.
So this is really the Great Reset. I mean, this is part of that whole thing that's coming, out of what is it? The Economic Council, Stu, help me out here. The Economic Forum out of Europe. This is the idea. It is fascism, and it's a public-private partnership. And the government picks the winners and the losers, and you can get all kinds of help from the United States government if you're playing ball and you are creating the things they want people to create. It is the definition of fascism.
That sort of system, by the way, works out really well if you are wealthy and well-connected. It works out not at all if you don't have friends in government and you're not already wealthy. But this increases restrictions on entry. This makes it impossible for the lean, mean, innovating machine who comes along with just a good idea. Makes it very, very difficult, and it does so in the guise of economic development, which is really, really sad. This is going to be something that forever will tarnish, harm, and impair upward economic mobility, which has been one of the hallmark characteristics of our economic system.
So are there enough people in the Senate to call that will stand against this?
There are a growing number of senators who don't want to support this. As of a week ago, this bill was looking very likely to pass. We were afraid, we had good reason to believe that it was going to pass by last Thursday. A small handful of us decided to stay up all night and keep the Senate in session and keep debating on this to delay a vote. We were able to delay the vote until this coming Monday. But it's going to be a close vote. It's not clear whether it will pass yet. We can stop it if. Who are the
senators who are the senators that should be targeted with kind phone calls saying, "Hey, please, I know you're on the fence. Do not support this bill."
You know, it is a safe way of putting it is communicate that to all senators. Whether you have reason to believe that your senator might have cast procedural votes in favor of this thing beforehand or not, just to assume that they might otherwise be tempted to support it, and you'll be safer because most members of the U.S. Senate have at one point or another expressed a degree of support for this. Some of them are learning more about it. So if everybody just communicates, we don't like this, we're going to be in a much better position.
You know, I know they reduced the number. They went from like $200 billion to $20 billion. You can't even open this door. You can't open the door. Am I wrong?
Well, you're wrong that this is a toned down version of this. I mean, this thing's gotten bigger. It's gotten more expensive, not less so. But you are absolutely right. That the minute you start to say we're going to start to be like China a little, that means we're somehow going to become more efficient, or that we're somehow going to become a system that's more friendly to the small-time entrepreneur who doesn't have big connections in government and isn't already wealthy. You can't open that door because the minute you open it, you're going down a path that's bad. See, Glenn, this all focuses on a misapprehension about what government is. Government doesn't have eyes to see you. It doesn't have a heart to love you. It doesn't have arms to embrace you. Government is only one thing, and that's force. Force and the ability to collect taxes through force. Once we remember that feature, then we start to utilize government for that which only government can do, to protect us, to protect life, liberty, and property. And occasionally it can help us out with some public good type arrangements like roads. But other than that, we need to keep government out because government doesn't do command and control economy well. It's not a possibility. This seems to presuppose that some of that is good, and it's not.